Okay. So let's get the wet palette curated real quick. The red ones. Good morning. Hope your birthday was nothing short of spectacular. Hope Saturday's too. Thanks. It was great. Bonet had prepared some spätzle. She cooked all day, but then we got really late and she made all these like awesome charcuterie like snacks for me. And then like it was getting late and it was like, yeah, why don't we just do spätzle tomorrow and just watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie and do this. It was great. And also she talked me into taking a bath because my back gets sore. And so that was it was like a nice self-care reminder, and it was really relaxing. And when I was drunk the day before yesterday, I did say like, oh, let's go roller skating at one of those roller rinks. And she was like, in case I still want to do that, she was dressed and she was like, let's go roller skating. I was like, nah, don't listen to me. I was like, that's how Kenny hurts his back before California team tournaments. My whole team would be so mad at me because I canceled California team last year because I hurt my back. Remember? And she was like, if you want to go roller skating at 39, you haven't roller skated in like 20 years. I was like, no, I was not. I was not to be trusted. And so she provided me with just insane food. She went to World Market here in Los Angeles, and they're like international, like just dope food. And she's spent so much time abroad that she just has all the sickest recipes. So like just like imported beers and high quality charcuterie and just like hors d'oeuvres. Like even the coffee she bought is like some fucking baller ass coffee that I never had. Like just everything was like super tight, just relaxing. She drew me a bath, put candles in there for me, got me like a bath bomb. It was just like unlocked my back, like my fucking tight ass muscles in my back, because I think I'm getting like what is that, psychosomatic? Like, because I'm so worried that I'm gonna hurt my back again and let my team down, that like my back's getting really tight, like preemptively, like my muscles are locking up. And so she had the rest. It was nice. It was very relaxing. Finished the evening out with a little video game session. No, I'm just old now. That tracks. More Pigment. Street Fighter? No, I actually played Bonet. Hilariously, we got to talking about Fallout. And then she's like, I want to play Fallout on Xbox in bed because so we also, like, one of our millennial hacks is that we always use a projector in our bedroom instead of a TV. And we just kind of figured this out years ago, and so like we always just like make sure our bedroom has a wall that's empty. And so our projector was dying out, and she got us a new one, and lumens on it were like 100 times stronger. It was like so baller. And so she's like, damn, look at this new, and like how cheap they're getting. I remember like these HD projectors used to be so expensive. Now they're like $100. So she got a new one, very fucking sharp and crisp. And this is being just projected on a wall. There's no screen, nothing. And so when we watch TV in bed, like the baller, it's the cheat code where we have like an Xbox One that she bought me for my birthday years ago, hooked up to this projector that's just on a shelf aimed at the wall. So our TV screen at night in bed is like 12 feet wide. It's fucking dope, like a movie theater. And it's so sharp and crisp. She's like, man, it kind of makes me want to play video games on it instead of VR. And so she was like, I want to play Fallout. So I was like, we still have Fallout 4 on it. She's like, she started playing it. She's like, man, fuck this game. I was like, well, Fallout 76 you liked. She's like, okay. So I downloaded it on there. So she's been playing like Fallout 76 on a new playthrough on Xbox. Just like she goes to bed at like a little earlier and lays in bed with the dog and plays that. So then it got me kind of inspired, and I reinstalled the game. And so just to kind of revisit the wasteland to see like what's changed, and it's pretty cool. Like there's a lot of, I mean, like anyone coming in the game new, there is no shortage of fucking content. Like it's pretty wild. So just a little revisit to the wasteland. Only as old as you feel. That's right, AWOL. So AWOL. We're going to go back to non-metal metallic. And what I'm going to do is I'm not sure about this. Okay, let me get my shit ready. I'm not sure about this. I'm not going to lie. I went with the hard lines, and I'm not sure if this is right for it. But I'm also not sure, because we got two weird things happening here. I've never actually run into this problem. It's perfectly flat, right? It's wider than it is tall. And so it's possible that I need to be doing a more correct horizon line on this than vertical lines, okay? This could be a mistake, because something's bothering about it. And so with non-metal metallic, you know, tri-blends, plane shifting and stuff like that, that's all good in the hood. But sometimes when in certain situations, you need to be cognizant of the horizon line. So I'm going to just like put a pin in this side and jump to this side real quick. And I'm going to do this one differently. And I'm going to just rapid fire. I'm going to grab some, and this right now, it's orange, right? Orange brown. So I'm going to just take some straight up semi-opaque ochre, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of wet glaze kind of from the top, maybe get a little orange brown and just push that into that pile of wet glaze. Just some heart pulls. It's not opaque, okay? So it's not going to dry nearly that aggressive. And that's okay. I don't want it to. I just want to kind of feel it out. So I'm going to go this direction with it instead. Or horizontal. And it's very, very thin paint here, so I can always change it up, you know, if I'm not feeling it. And so just keeping the paint real wet and just real light strokes, should be able to get a pretty solid blend, okay? And it's gonna dry, it's not gonna be nearly that impactful, but I already like that more. I already feel like that's the direction we need to go. It just needs to be a classic transition with hard edges. This is bothering me, okay? This is bothering me. I feel like this is going to be more where we need to be. Okay? So, typically with non-metal metallic, all we got to do, AWOL Nation, is, like, see here? It's tri-blended, bright, dark, bright. Bright, dark, bright. That's simple. Edge highlighted, right? Now, and the other rule is plane shifting. Every time you switch planes, invert the orientation, and you'll see more of that here. But sometimes there's like weird exceptions, and cylinders are one of them. Anything that's a cylinder, you have to be, there's other set of rules for. And these are kind of unique in the fact that they're perfectly flat. There's no plane to shift against, and they're very short and wide. And so while this tri-blend kind of made sense at first, something about it doesn't sell me on it. And I think it's that we need to be transitioning from a horizon line, not from a vertical line. And so I'm going to, and so I don't even know if we have to tri-blend this. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can get away with just a one and done, as long as you're being aggressive. Okay, and I'll show you what that means. Agent, thank you for the follow. So I'm going to reset this one. I'm just going to do it. And so I'm going to be more opaque here. I'm going to be a lot more heavy-handed because I'm going to repaint the surface of this. And it's, you know, very thin paint. So I'm going to paint right over it with a way more opaque mix and spread, just to get better coverage. And so this is like true wet blending. It's opaque. It's very opaque and a little wet. And I'm just using the heart pulls. And the other side, it was not wet blending, it was wet glazing. I'm only using enough moisture to disperse it. And so I'm going to kind of split the difference here and just work that tide line right here with some gentle brush pressure. I'm just going to work the tide line again. I'm going to rinse the brush. Pick up a little bit more raw ochre up here. Okay, I'm going to take a little white. And so the way we're going to sell it is being willing to go to almost pure white pretty abruptly. Like that. Conrad, what's up, brother? Dabba Rounds, we're back. So that was more opaque, right? It was mostly opaque with a little moisture, and this was very low opacity. You see the difference? This was a wet glaze, very easy to blend. Don't have to mess with it too much. This was really just for me to mentally prove my concept, and this was to erase some of the previous paint job. So here, still a little wet in the cut. So I'm gonna be careful here. A little more opaque. Pick up some of our dark slurry. I'm just doing some heart pulls. I'm using my brain to kind of split the difference between that tide line. Probably have to get a little darker, let that dry before I go darker. Go back to pure ochre right here. Get a little of that white. Get some moisture. Too much moisture is bad. Split the difference. Go back a little darker. Rinse that off. Get a little bit more white, a little more ochre. And we're going to just gently drag some in with a slight heart pull here. And it's wet enough that it should disperse a little bit. A little bit of moisture to help heal right here. Maybe split the difference, go back down a notch. Okay. So that's how we're gonna start with the transition from that position. Okay, I don't like the horizon line anymore, or the verticals. 1+ save, what's up, brother? Birthday bros, is it your birthday today? Aramis NMM, what's up, homie? So now the top plane, on the top plane, we can do kind of similar to what we were doing. The problem is I should have cleaned this up a little bit better. But I think I make it right. So dark here. We I'm gonna keep it intact the way it was, right? It's gonna be tri-blended center at the top, dark at the sides. And we're gonna get some pure ochre up here. A touch of the white. A little bit of moisture. Stipple off of that. And we're going to pick up some brown while it's wet. That's brown with orange. Say just quick, dark, bright, dark situation. Rinse it down. A little moisture just kind of stipple in right there. Pick up some of that mid game again, stipple in. Rinse it down. Pick up some ochre. Fight it back. Pick up some white. Make sure there's some more abrupt white on the top and just stipple off of that with some ochre again. Quick sewing machine stroke. Okay. And now the base of our blend is drying, and we'll be able to reinforce that with some detail work, okay? Happy birthday, 1+ saves. Can I get 500 yo dogs for fucking 1+ saves? Josh Davies miniatures. It's cold out here for a deathly night. Okay, so let's let that settle down so we can do some traditional glazing, and let's figure out what's going on in the sword here. Okay, so the sword has some action, but not as much action as it looks like. Okay, so what we have here is basically a cylinder right here, and so we're gonna do, it's gonna be bright here, and then that'll become mid-tone as it wraps around. And I'm just picking up the dark puddle and blending right off of it like that. And then moving back to ochre and just stippling off of that puddle. Now, the tricky part is what's going on in here. And here we might just do some center mass highlighting. Like that. Too easy. My link isn't working, AWOL Nation? Should just take you to a blog. It's not though, huh? Yeah, shit is not working. Weird. It's just my blog. It should be nextlevelpainting.net. That's a dumbass link though. That's an old timed command that I should fix. Let me see if I can find it. That's some old shit right there. Time message. What is that? Is that social media one? Support. Hangout. Here we go. Media. Yep. Let me see what's going on with that. Hey, good eye. I'm gonna just fix it right now. Okay. All right, next time that link comes around, I'll keep an eye on it. That's crazy. What? Is my redirect URL not working anymore? Maybe I have to re-up my domain. No, it works if I just type it in the browser. That's weird. It's cool. I changed it to Linktree anyway. I changed the link to a Linktree that works, so should be all right. Okay, so let's take a little bit of raw ochre. Let's just kind of hit dead center. Right here. We take a little of that white. Right there. And since I'm right here, let's just go ahead and try to get a crispy line around it using the tracer technique, you see? On cylinders, that's 90% of it, is just getting this line. High opacity, low moisture. Invert, get both sides of the line. That one got a little away from me. I'll have to repair that. Let's get some moisture on the brush. Let's run back into some midfield color. And let's just kind of stipple back in here and reshape our line aggression. I'll repair right here. Let's pick up some of that white and let's just do a little dot kind of right here. All right, and we gotta let's repaint the leather strap. Right there. Now here, this is gonna be some weird shit here, so I don't know how much we're even gonna have to do. So let's run some ochre there. I feel like probably just drop some ochre in here. I'm kind of just feeling it out because it's such a weird design. It's not really that weird, honestly. It's just there's not a lot of real estate there to push off of, so it's more like just do what you can and then edge highlight it. So you see like these flat panels, these are much easier. So they're gonna plane shift. Like I said, which means simply that every time you switch panels, it's just gonna keep going dark to light. and inverting itself, right? So here's light blending into dark, right? Now, you shift plane. The light must touch the dark here. See this light again. And then blend that into dark. And then down there where that next plane is the same thing. See, and I already kind of set it up as I was laying it out. Real simple. And you highlight it, it'll look reflective. No problem. That's the easy part. This one right here is visible to the viewer in extreme. So let's go with, since you can see this one, let's go with a tri-blend. Bright, dark, bright. Like that. And then I'll just instantly switch it to a bi-blend as we shift panels, because you start to not be able to see it now. I'm using just semi-opaque, hard pulls, real simple. Chaos Kevin, chat, I saw you. What's up, brother? Do a little bit smoother of a blend. Right there. Rinse down. Pick up a little white and ochre. Right there. And box it out real quick. You see these diamonds are going to be painted in a totally different way, I think. And they're not part of the golds, or that'll get kind of, I don't know, I think it get kind of lost. Lack of contrast. But right here, you want to just kind of stipple in a little highlight right there. Maybe just stipple in some mid-tone, orange right there. Get a little white and ochre again. Let's put a little, got it on the skull. Little dot right here. Let's just get a nice hard edge right there. Invert. Now, I'm not too worried about the frame on the diamond because I'm certainly going to have to repaint it after I paint the diamond. And right now I'm just kind of boxing it out. And it's catching some rough edges from 3D printing. There's a couple of in some of the very small parts of some of those 3D printing lines. So the tracer kind of bumped off of those, and I'm just gonna go in there and fix them real quick. Right there. Just kind of using the mid-tone again. Put some white back in right here. Got it. Get a little bit of that brown. Reshape right there.
Hey, are you Dirty Mike and the boys? Your cats! Rub your dicks on the car as you run away! We are gonna have sex in your car!
Orc Pride. Oh. I'm gonna get some strong man love in the chat for my boy Orc Pride. It's Double Yo Dogs on Saturdays. Hashtag Dirty Mike Live! Exclamation point soup for Orc Pride. Thank you, brother. We get that hype in the chat right there for Orc Pride. Thank you for your support. Star Moore says looking dope. Thanks, man. Just trying to make the magic happen. Now, I don't want to over-engineer too much of these little tiny panels, just because we still have to do these gems in here. So I'm gonna do a placeholder for now. So let's get like a classic, maybe like a green. Actually, let's see. Let's get a little turquoise. Turquoise is just such a great place to start. A lot of paint jobs for me. And let's get a little let's throw a little intrigue in there with some green. Already got white on the table. I'm gonna go into black as well. Stormwar, thank you for the follow, brother. Dub Shep in chat. What's up, brother? Okay, let's figure out these things real quick before I go too much further. So, here's some green, here's some turquoise. I feel like these are going to look awesome together. And so, let's just paint these things real quick. Semi-opaque, a little wet, not totally opaque. If I can avoid repainting any gold, I will. Because at some point, you're going to have to paint by numbers on either the golds or the green. Okay, beautiful. Now, gems and jewels are really easy to do. When they're a kite pattern like this, they're a little trickier. Because now you're out of the gem world and right back to non-metal metallic world. Now, there's some easy ways to do it that are really shortcutty. Like, honestly, if you just paint it like that, and then edge highlight the seam, it'll look fire. Nobody will fucking question you. Now this thing right here, the sword dick, obviously gonna paint that. And this one will be the easy version that I was talking about. So that way we can show off both. So anything that's like this is super easy. So just paint it your chosen gem color. Let it dry for a second. No worries. And so what we want to do is we're using this blue and this green just for some fun intrigue, right? They're about the same value. Nothing's really making... Like, the green might be a little darker. But what we want is to actually make it darker. So I like to use black for this, even though it's desaturative. And so what we're going to do is top left... We're going to just kind of carve in a slightly darker kind of half moon and put a little bit more black in right there. See, I didn't make it like straight black just yet. I made it a little blacker. So it's very respectful. It's got almost a natural blend going on here. And I could take some of our bluish green and kind of intriguingly combine them right up against that slice I made. You see? And then this is where I'm going to introduce some white now. Down here, bottom right. And again, it's not just straight up white. It is the respectful whitening of both colors. You really don't have to do any blending, especially when they're this small. You get away with pretty much just straight lines. But here's a little bit more white. Opaque. Right there. See, deliberately hard edge. Let that relax, Jax the Pirate. Let's take a little black. And we're going to actually slice in some black now. A little bit more hard edged. Get in there tight. So that's like our half moon of black. Rinse it down. Let's get that white again. Let's see if we can reinforce the hard edgeness down here. Using the tip of our brush. A little heart pull stroke right there. Very light brush pressure. Right there. And now the trick is see if we can put a little white inside the black. The stipple. Right there, put 2 dots. I'm just gonna let that chill right there. Little accent. Now the problem is like the sidewall is kind of tricky. So I'm gonna take thin down black, and I'm gonna actually just kind of pin wash around the gem in that seam where it meets the actual metal, and put a nice border with semi-opaque wet black using the tip of my brush again, right, to kind of just frame it against that ochre. Andrew's Army, what up, brother? And now we're gonna take some ochre and we're gonna let it be maybe a little white. We're just gonna see if I can just first just edge highlight it. See, I'm using the tracer technique. Real simple. Okay, so that's the easy one. That one, any circular object, those rules will apply. So easy. Just some edge highlighting shit. Now, the kite-shaped gems, they're a little trickier. Mixed Stabber Studios. What's up, brother? He says, thanks for the various tutorial videos. Kind words, brother. Now, I did reset these shoulders to a different shape because I didn't like what I did yesterday after I slept on it. But let's get these kite gems. These kite gems are kind of the same rules. If you, like I said, you can just highlight the cross pieces if you want, and it'll ride. Right? But if you want to go a step further, right, we're just using this turquoise and this green right here. Let's get a little white in there. And instead, what I'll do is I'll treat each quadrant like its own thing. Okay? So what I was saying about cross piece is like if you just kind of do that, you know, something like that, nobody will ever question it. But what I'll do is I'll make it bright here. So it's bright dark. I'll make it bright here. Bright dark. I'll make it bright here, bright dark. Just stippling in. Okay. And now I'll go back, get a little moisture, green turquoise, and I will stipple off of that and just get us a nice little blend going. Okay, so we've got a bit of a dark, bright, dark, bright, dark, bright plane shift, right? Light opposes dark, just like with metallic. Do you use active wash technique for the nut cloth valve browser? No, I did not. I did not, sir. There's just some hand-fisted painting and some glazing. So now that way I don't have to do everything twice. Let me just stipple on this one. So bright side, it's dark side, bright side, it's dark side. Okay. Same kind of situation. Brings down. Pick up the green, the blue. No, with no white, just kind of stipple off that border, that tide line. Just kind of soften it. Now what we got to do, just like with metallic or just like with the round gem, is we got to go blacker. So here's our blacker mix up here. Green turquoise, some black. So what I'll do now is be a little bit more precise. Using just little heart pulls. Let me get a little bit more moisture than that. Some stippling right there. So it follows the same rules, okay? So now I've re-embedded the more extreme darkness. That one got away from me a little bit, that's okay. Okay, so you see it's getting a little bit more exciting now. So now I'm going to split the difference between that and our just kind of stock green blue. So it's not nearly as black. And I'm going to work that little tide line real quick with some tight little blurring. Just some little stipples kind of aimed right where the black meets the midfield. Some semi-opaque. Mostly transparent, a little wet. All right, just kind of blur the action. So straight plane shifting, right? And you can tighten it up as much as you want. You can go as sharp as you want on the blacks, but I find probably just take a second to put in some edge highlights real quick. And shout out to McStabber Studio for the sub. I appreciate that, homie. Let's grab some white, pretty much pure white. Let's get some of the moisture off of it, and let's see if we can carefully run a tracer on that seam. See? And that's usually all you need to do. And we're just using the flat of our brush, looking for that horizon and just tracing that edge. like that. And now what we need to do is typically you need to do a little bit of that on the outside, unfortunately. So what you have to do now is be a little bit more tight and precise. Which I was not. But it's okay because I'm going to have to do a pin wash anyway. And so any mistakes I make here, I'll remove with some pin wash erasing. That's a good one right there. So now I'm using the heart pull. That's a good one right there. See the difference when you get that outer line? That's a good one right there. Game changer, right? Right there, and I'll have to do a little cleanup on the gold there. But now that we're boxing it out, we're getting that truly reflective feeling. So just the tip of your brush, high opacity, low moisture. Try to orient the model in such a way where you can very gently pull straight back. So now what I'm going to do is rinse down again. Let's take up some of this mahogany right here, which is our kind of our darkest color for the golds. Put a nice pin wash. But don't erase, don't get it on the gem too much. Like that, I fucked up and kind of wiped out a little of my edge highlight. But that's okay. Rinse it down. Itchy nuisance. That's a great job. Thanks, man. Now let's go back to white and fix my one mistake right there. High opacity, low moisture. Now also, you want to get the outer wall of the gold part. If you want to get that line too. Kind of tricky. And that's ochre white in this particular workup. So this is tricky. You don't want to get this back on the gem. You want to just hit the bevel of the actual gold part right there. Ramp it up, and now keep rotating, looking for that tracer action. All right, let's take some more of that white. Let's make sure we got a little bit more white right here. Right there. And now you can see a little gold down here under the hilt. So we're probably gonna have to just do kind of the same thing. Just like a little bit of ochre right there. bit right here. And we'll take some of our orange mix, which is just the orange and the brown. Just barely blend off of it because you don't need much here. Since, you know, sometimes you're going to flip the guy over, you'll be able to see things you normally don't account for. So our gems look popping on this side, but unfortunately you can still see gem from this side. So you got to kind of rinse and repeat. So let's get a little bit of our highlight game again, right? It's just some of that blue, green, and white. See if I can ramp it up, right? Get a little faster. McStabber Studios, any suggestions on a go-to wash brands? Yeah, dude. Army Painter, best in the game. Quick Shades. So you're going to see I'm going to do something a little different over here because you can't see as much. You can only really see some of the gems. So I'm actually doing that thing I talked about where I'm just going to kind of trace them out. You see? I'm not going to do the same exact attention to detail. I'm framing them the same way. And I'll do a little blending off of that, but not much. So there's some of our dark stuff. Just a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit darker. So I'm like simulating what we did on the other side on just like 2 gems while I've highlighted all of them. Okay, I'm gonna go back to white and I'm gonna reinforce the gleaming edge. Like so. So it rides. Don't paint it if you can't see it, baby. War Squirtle knows. What's up, War Squirtle? Squirtle. Now let's take some of that mahogany and let's just clean up this gap between the gem and the actual hilt right there. Looks tight. I'll fucking put a fork in that. So this is just some of that more tedious stuff, you know? Since I'm here with some black, I'll make a gray real quick. Put a little of that mahogany in it, so I'll make like a brownish gray. Here. So I just made black, white, mahogany, and I'll use this real quick to run a couple of quick little lines in the leather. It's just like a desaturated version of the mahogany. right? Just let it chill. And I'm kind of just running it along the seams of those wraps. Put a little bit more white in the mix. And I'll just try to detail it out now. Run a couple of like high point highlights. Bow, son. Done. Too easy. Nemsy Wemsy, what's up, man? Tight. Okay, so now all this stuff appears dried. Let's run in with the mahogany. Semi-opaque, a little wet. And let's just see if we can get like a kind of a pin wash going here. So semi-opaque and a little wet. I'm doing a deliberately hard edge right there, but it's not opaque, so it's not going to be so crazy when it's dry. And there's all these nuts right here, and so that's why it's kind of tricky. I'm using a little brush. So I want to have our really dark position there. And I want it to work. I want to work off of that with just a couple of swipes. So like if we're using this brown, right, that's kind of our darkest position. I'm going to add some of the orange back in. That's the orange mix. We're going to do it again off that line and walk into the midfield a little bit. Just kind of blur it slightly, but it doesn't really need much blurring. We'll take a little bit of water, a little bit more of the orange, lower the opacity. Do it again to get a little bit more orange love in there. Okay. Let's take some ochre, mix it in. Just kind of split the difference between the ochre and the orange. Semi-opaque, a little wet. Like a little hair right there. Get off. Just splitting the difference with the ochre and the orange. Semi-opaque. Mostly transparent though. And this is just to bring some of the gold, yellow, orange back into the brown. But you honestly don't have to do much. Just make sure you have a good highlight. So like right here, we're losing the highlight. So let's go back and do a little more ochre. And that's semi-opaque, a little wet. Let's take some of our midfield and we're gonna do a bit of a wet glaze. And we're just gonna battle more highlight back in right there. And so keeping it kind of wet is helpful for that. So again, here's some of the ochre, a little wet. Pick up some of this wet orange brown. By keeping it a little wet, it's easier to blur. There you go. So what's really going to sell this is the edge highlighting and this little seam right here. That thing is a bitch. With all the nuts and bolts on it, I feel like, God, it's such a nightmare. I'm going to take some ochre and just kind of drag it down the center right here. Like the fact that it has all these nuts and bolts on it is really what makes it obnoxious. So I'm taking like just pure ochre and kind of doing like a center highlight and then trying to trace it. I might even take a little white into the mix. Right there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rinse it down, take all that off my brush. I'm gonna take some black and I'm gonna kind of repair this seam right here with pure black. Okay, that'll ride, that'll ride. So we plane shifted there, guys, okay? So this big fin, it's bright dark, and then it's kind of bright dark again, but I'm doing my best. It's kind of wacky. Okay, let's take some ochre and some white. High opacity, low moisture. And let's just kind of see what we have here. If I run a quick tracer, right, I'm going to use the flat of my brush and just ride that rail. Like so. All right. Put it right there. This is going to be a little trickier on the inside. I'll put more ochre in it than white just to be safe. Okay, so we got a little bit more work to do. It's not quite there yet. Gotta work out some lines still. So what I need is a little healing in this region right here. I got some ochre out here. A little water in it. I should probably be using my bigger brush. I sense that now. And I'll switch to it here in a second. But what we want also is really bright lines. So here's some like pretty much straight up white. And what we also want is some of this white to creep in a little bit. So let's get some white ochre. I want some of this to step off of the seam and walk into the actual plane a little bit. Okay, just to really ramp it up. Now, here this just sucks. There's all these just nuts. Stipple. Like that. Get that seam as well. Let me see if I can cut right here. A little on the wider side. Right there. So now we're heading in the right direction. This is what I like. I'm with that a lot more. Because then on this, I can do fun things like diagonal shine lines. But I will switch to the big brush as I move around on this. But I like the just traditional, just real solid blend right there. And I like that this porthole is keeping us tight with the pinwheel effect. And the sword is doing a lot of heavy lifting now. And honestly, what we do on all the silver is going to matter. So what we'll do is we'll take a little break if you guys want to jump into a whip session real quick. Exclamation point whip. Jump into Discord. Let's see what you guys are working on. I'm going to run a quick edge highlight on the other side while we're setting up for Discord. Just doing a little Saturday morning painting with my friends here on the internet. And again, I'm just going to hit this line. I'm using the trace technique. Hold your breath, swinging from right to left. Just get a nice clean line right there. And I'm just going to stipple these nuts before I forget.
If you play the strings, I'll sing all night. I need a remedy, and melodies always make me feel alright. If you set the scene, I'll dim the lights.
This one is a little trickier because I didn't sand it good enough, so I've got a little bit of texture right here. But I'm just kind of painting around it and making it work. You guys do any painting last night? Wow. Tight, 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 tight. Some weird ass details. I'm looking forward to moving on to other surfaces on this guy. Making sure there's no dust. Looking forward to jumping in here, doing a little tri-blend, figuring out what we're gonna do with this thing. Goddamn.
And his name is John C.
Poor Squirtle, what up, player? Poor Squirtle says, how do you get low moisture using a wet palette? Wet palette management, I talk about it sometimes. I teach it in my classes, but ultimately your objective is to make the sponge wet, but not the top of the paper wet. That's the move. So it's like cool and humid, not wet. Wait, hold on. Lanao says, welcome back. Yeah, came out of retirement this morning, brother. War Squirtles doesn't seem convinced. He's like, okay. Pour water on the sponge. Put a paper over the water. And only let water come from below, not above. If water is somehow on top of the paper, there's too much water in there. Dump some of it out. Take a paper towel, blot the top dry. If your parchment is so pathetic that it can't help but be soaked, go buy some good parchment paper. Don't use dollar store parchment paper. Like some people, I don't know what your situation is, War Squirtle, but some people are like, yo, I'll never buy a wet palette. I got this sponge and this parchment paper from the hobby shop or from the fucking Michaels. It's $2. No, that's just terrible. Spent some time on the cape, blocked some stuff in. We did some really sharp, easy black edge highlights. We did some quick non-metal metallics to start the show with. Let's get this finger done real quick because it's gonna bother me until I do it on this like big power fist thing. And so you don't paint it if you don't see it. You know what I'm saying? So we did it with orange and mahogany. We'll take the straight up ochre. And what we'll do is we'll just isolate the fingers into planes. So starting here, we'll just, with semi-opaque, slightly wet heart pulls, we'll do right there. And then we'll do right here. So plane shift, plane shift. We're gonna isolate these this knuckle right here. And then as it shifts planes to here, we'll highlight. And again, if you can't see it, you're not gonna paint it. Okay. Semi-opaque, pretty loose paint right there. Just some of this ochre. Now the workup is super easy. It's just these three paints. So this orange and this brown are how it gets darker. So we'll just split the difference with some thin down ochre, and we'll go in and do another collection of lines right off the first line to soften it. Semi-opaque, a little wet. So it's gonna have a blurring effect. Like that. Reach in here, just using the tip of my brush, doing some tight little heart pulls. Just slight blurring. Right there. We're gonna go, I think, a little harder into the ochre. Let's see here. Let's get a little bit more ochre in that mix. So it's still splitting the difference, but a little on the ochre side now. A little bit of moisture. Take some moisture off. I want to get a little bit more ochre in the game. Right there. And see, the trick is every time you shift planes, you invert the highlight. Real simple. Hobo urine. Thank you for the follow. Hobo urine. Thank you for the follow. Green Leaf Translucent says, "Boo, you again? Go retire. You're tired. Nap time for old man Kenny." Man, I'm really tricking him yesterday. I came out of retirement this morning, Doug. Just for you. I was like, you know what? Green Leaf Trade Studios, he doesn't deserve this. Felipe, what's up, man? Let's add a little bit of ochre and white together, guys. And let's just try to pop a tight little line right here. Right there. Right there. Let's be cognizant of the shape of this thumb, this curve right here. Okay. Real simple. And now you want to just see if we can get some nice tight lines on the exterior. So we're going to use a little bit more opacity, a little bit less moisture. Some white and some ochre right there. We're using the flat of our brush right now. Let's invert. Right there. And this final line you draw is really important to kind of frame everything. Here I'm going to use a heart pull. As I walk it up, flip back this way. Reload the brush. Don't fight it if it's not deploying. Just going to get your mix reestablished. High opacity, low moisture. Right there. Sneak in right here. Heart pull right there. Flip it right here. Don't fight it. Reload. The tip of your brush really likes to dry fast when it's like this. Right there. So you just box it out. Lycerion, thank you for the follow. Well, you really can't see this, but I will throw some highlights down right here. I'm gonna get a little bit more white in the mix. For right here. And right here. Okay, I see there's a shape here I'm missing. I'm gonna go back to the mahogany. And I'm gonna put a little pen wash right there. There you go. So now, you know, if you look back there, it looks like his hand's shiny. Ochre and white. Some stipples right there. Let's get this little hose right here. Let's fucking figure this goddamn thing out. So I'm thinking right here. Get some moisture. Let's get some of our orange. A little bit more brown. Rinse that down. Let's get a little bit of white ochre, a little bit more opacity, a little bit less moisture. We're just going to kind of hit that seam. Which is real fucking delicate. there. I'm gonna go kind of just a quick stipple right here. And now we're gonna box it out where this latch ends right here. And it's hard to tell where the hose starts. So let's just go back to the brown orange game real quick and use that to sculpt. Our line. I think we were just using black and green. Maybe. Was I? God, I have no idea. Maybe brown and green? Fuck, man. Yep. So I'm trying to just make sure that it's obvious where that latch ends or that coupling. And there is a goddamn nut on it. Ah, I fucking hate these nuts. So I gotta put a little stipple on it. Right there. Okay, god damn it. Alright, so feeling good about that. Now we gotta think about these skulls. This one has a fucking massive... Where's my clippers? I have to see if I can get this one off. This skull right here, unfortunately, I left a support on it. I can see, like... right there. See if I can get that off. Oh shit. Catching that raid? Yo, let me get some strong hype for Bice Fallow Art Studio with the raid. Yo, thank you so much. You're catching me at a good moment. At a moment where I'm trying to fucking pop a support nipple off a model I already have like base coach and shit on. And I'm looking for my X-Acto blade, which I haven't been able to find for a couple of days because I have ADHD. And I struggle with object permanence, and I put things down that are small in my hand, and I lose them for fucking weeks. What I'm trying to do is get this fucking support nipple off this skull right here. And I'm struggling to do it. Usually this gets the job done right here. And I'm trying to just be careful to kind of push it off without breaking my fucking sword. Oh, yes. Got it. Mostly. I was in a rush. As always, Gurali, thank you for the follow. Can I get some hype in the chat right there for these Raiders? Now what I'll do real quick is I'll take the black and the white. Kind of repaint this skull. Right here. And I'm going to use a neutral palette for that. And I'm keeping it just black and white. No other hues infiltrating. So I'm just going to just quickly jam in some more white to the mix. While it's still a little wet. So we can kind of see the direction that's going. Can barely see what's going on back here, so I'm barely going to paint it. That's how that works. Here. So that's just like a much brighter gray than what's already there. It's not white, but it's moving toward that direction. I'm just using a small brush. I'm using semi-opaque, semi-wet, small little strokes. I'm okay to not paint like every element of it and just leave some of that gray behind. So we can just lift those elements off the model. I know that stuff is going to be moving toward white. Here is some more white in the mix. And here you can see I can get a little bit more detail with it. Some stipples right here. Some little quick strokes. So they just quickly just building up. Nothing groundbreaking here. Oh, that's almost pure white. Still some ambient gray in the bristles. Just kind of stippling it in, leaving some gray behind. Just laying it out. Okay. Helping me with, you know, the snapshot of what we're looking at here. Oh, there's something down here. That. And now all the trim we painted in the same spectrum with the intent of making it look somewhat metallic, but that's becoming quite the fucking order with all the little bumps on everything. Let's just start here. Let's start somewhere easy. Okay. Keeping it neutral. Here's some black. Let me switch to my bigger brush. Black, white. Okay, so what we're going to do here is probably something like this. Just semi-opaque, a little wet. So that's a quick tri-blend workup right there. Let's go with a line here, here, here. Let's go. Oh, that's weird. Right here. And I don't know yet what I'm going to do with this. But what I will do is I will blend off of that a little bit, right? So let's take a little bit more black into the mix. And we're just going to kind of focus on the tide lines. Right there, maybe a little bit more black. And this is wet glazing, so it's still very low opacity, very wet. And I'm just stippling into the midfield. I'm just using black and white, just kind of switching the values up as I see I need them. See? Just light stipples. Moisture when you need it. That helps you with the dispersal. Kind of just playing with it until I like it. Just the sewing machine stroke right here. Oh my God. We'll let that settle down for a second. Some stippling right here in the sword. Pluck a little bit more white out. Let's rinse it down. Go to my little guy real quick. So we're going to go a little bit more harsh. A little bit more opacity here. Let's just, or a little bit more opacity. Then I added water to it right there. And so I'm just trying to pop out the edges to be more extreme. And just making the adjustments using my eyes, splitting the difference, stipple into this real estate right here. Okay. Maybe a little bit more of the neutral, the mid game. A little bit more black. And just using very transparent paint with a little bit of moisture on it. Just making small adjustments while it's still a little wet. And this is not wet blending, I call it wet glazing. It has very little impact on the real estate. It only is having any impact at all because we already kind of built a quick frame in there using these exact paints. You want your wet blending to be a little bit more opaque than that for immediate impact. So let's get a little bit more white. Let's see if we can push it a little further here. So we're doing little heart pulls, high opacity, low moisture. We're going to use the flat of our brush and just run that on that seam right there. That's the tracer technique. Right there. Since I'm already in this plane, I'm going to run that tracer on this curve. Rotate the model, keep it as straight as you can. load back up with a little bit more paint. Don't fight it. If it's not transferring from your bristles, don't push harder, just reload. So quick tri-blend with a frame highlight right there. There we go. Cognizant of your tip penetration. So there you go, bright, dark, bright. Box it out, looks shiny. Okay. And that wasn't even pure white. That still had some gray in it. So we can go a little whiter. Just make some tiny adjustments. Like here. Just kind of get that curve a little straighter, like that. Right there. That. Okay, that's tight. Now the sword is going to be fun because the sword's got all manner of bevel on it. So it's got, get some moisture here. So it's got kind of this top plane right here. You'll see it's like a sword on a sword. So while it's wet, I'm just going to send in this puddle of black and gray. Okay. I'm going to use my eyes and just kind of work out the tide lines. Some stippling right here. Very low impact. Tri-blend right there, but you see there's a frame around it. Okay? So now the frame, what I'm going to do is I'm going to carve it in real quick in black. See, I'm just gonna leave it, but I'm just gonna leave it black. I think. Let that just set up for a minute. Let's move here. See, I just did a quick two-tone right here, so I'm just gonna split the diff, put a little black. I'm just going up and down, black and white. Right there. Shout out to Elusive Spacer. Thank you for the follow. Let's grab a little black. A little tri-blend right there. Keeping it wet. And low opacity. Okay. Now on the sword, this is going to be tricky. Let's grab a little white. Keep the opacity high and the moisture low. Let's see if I can run a tracer here. I'm going to try to really hit this bevel. Wow, son. Rotate. Hold your breath. Swing it from right to left. Flat of the brush. Run it on that seam, baby. There it is. And that's it. So another simple tri-blend. Box it out. Now here on the cross guard, I just did a one direction edge highlight. Blend, just light on the top, dark on the bottom. I'll box that out. And rotating using the tracer technique, looking for the bevel. And just making straight skinny lines every time with the tracer. There's that. Now this is like a round set piece, so this is going to be a little trickier. So let me just actually stipple a little highlight in the center there. But then just spend a couple seconds on that. Right there. Now, probably should do a cylinder there. Yeah, actually, check it out. So that's like, so what we need to do actually right here is run some vertical lines. There. Cylinders have a different set of rules. See? It's just like a random dark line opposed by a random bright line. It's usually all it takes. And now this sword dick at the very top, we just got to put a nice clean edge on that. Using the tracer technique, very light brush pressure, high opacity, low moisture, pow! Rotate. There. And now there is another one of those gem pommels built into it, but straight up that motherfucker is not a gem. So we'll just kind of hit it with some gray. And ignore it entirely. Quick little highlight. That's it. Now it looks like I did kind of fuck up right here at one point when I was painting. I'm gonna take some pure coal black. Just kind of wipe out that highlight because I got a little gold on it. Now, the eagle wings or whatever. Let's take some of that same watered down black. Oh, don't fuck up, don't fuck up. Let's actually pull from this direction so I don't get it on my finished design like I was doing there. So pull away from the risk. Like that. And a little bit more black. Now I'm gonna get a little bit more white. And now I'm gonna try to box it out. Careful, careful. High opacity, low moisture. Run your tracer, rotate, find that shelf again. Cognizant of your tip penetration, you don't want to paint the shoulder pad field by accident with your tip. Okay, invert. Try to get the lower shelf. Ah, God, that was heinous. Some more white on the top. And let's get a little bit of a line going here. You want to make sure you separate these from the rest of the design. We got to go back and fix that one hand-fisted line I did right here. So we're going to go back to the black, lower the opacity, and gently fuzz out the aggression of that fucking line. Rinse it down. Jack's the Pirate. What's up, brother? Brickwall Studios. Let's get a little bit more white, and let's fix also one of my very first mistakes was I got a little black. Right there on that shelf. Let's get a little bit more pure white. As pure as I can get. Let's see. Because I feel like I can get a little whiter here. There we go. Looking good. Just gotta do these last three wings. We've got pretty interesting sword situation right here. We haven't done the blade yet, obviously. We're able to get these fins looking good. Got the knuckles looking good in there. Now we're getting this shoulder art. Just gotta follow in the fundamentals: try blend, plane shift, edge highlight. Now the procedure for it is easy. You need to have the techniques in your arsenal though. Those techniques. Yo, Chaos Kev. Chaos Kev coming in on Double Yo Dogs on this Saturday. Says, no hangover today. You sure you celebrated your B-Day? Great. Non-metal metallic. Thank you, Chaos Kev. I just had one beer last night. German beer bone I bought from the World Market. I had 3 beers the night before, though. That's when I said I was going to go roller skating on my birthday, when I was like wasted on 3 beers. Three German beers. And then last night I was like, I'm not doing that. Chaos Kev. So Chaos Kev, and even though the procedure is pretty easy to generate the effect, you got to have the techniques. And if you can't do like some glazing, wet glazing techniques, like through understanding moisture behavior, you're going to struggle. So the first road to non-metal metallics is learn how to glaze. It's like the first lesson of the 201 course that I teach after the 101. So let's get a little thin down black.
Have you ever looked in the audience and seen something that makes you laugh?
Some quick heart pulls, pull away from the risk. Low opacity black. Okay, as Kev knows. A little bit more. That's good enough. Necrosac in the house. Check it out, Necrosac. Let's get some white, high opacity, low moisture. So we can catch these edges. Okay, here we go. A little tracer. Keep an eye on that tip penetration. Don't fight it. Don't, if it's not deploying, don't just keep trying to scrape it on there. Just stop. Always have the battle on the palette, not the model. When you're doing the edge highlight stuff. And this is where a little foam improver does come in handy if you put a little on the palette to stop the dry tip. Case in point, put some foam improver on my palette. And then I'll just put a little bit on my bristles. I'm not trying to actually wet up the paint. Just trying to slow the dry time down. Okay, let's invert. Dark side edge highlighting is where the magic happens for metallic. Get a little more. Beautiful. Let's make sure to catch this part of the frame right here. I'm gonna up the repair glaze back to black, semi-opaque. Repair that one thick white edge highlight I did there. So that's pretty tight. Necrosac, am I planning on seeing Wu-Tang 2020 tour in September? I did not even know. I might have to make plans. Okay. Still got 30 or so minutes left. So this side is this is the one that's weird. Okay. Because it's got a skull on it. Now, we already have our silver accent, right? So these pre-Hersey guys, red and silver. Okay? So we have our silver. Now, there's a plate here, which we can do silver, and the skull is kind of built into it. It's not obviously a human skull, right? So is the skull going to be... So it's kind of tricky to separate the two. Right? To have, like, a skull on this effect, right? It's going to be very... The contrast is going to be weird. So, I feel like we almost have to paint the skull kind of the same way. Kind of built in, like it's metal. Or, I mean, that's what I feel. So maybe the plate's gold. Ah, that's how we do it. We got to make the plate gold and the skull white. I think that's how we sell it. So what we'll do first is just take some ochre, let's make some orange, kind of put it all together. Ochre and orange. A little more ochre. Semi-opaque. Because I'm just going to paint it right over the gray. You get good stick on gray. So, pretty transparent pass. So I feel like that's the move. Separate them from each other. Like that. October 4th, they're in the Hollywood Bowl. Man, the Hollywood Bowl's like 2 blocks from my house, dog. Get stuck in that traffic all the time. I'm going to Franklin. So that's the direction we'll take it right there. So now, let's add a little bit more ochre to the same mix. Like so. Go back in time to the brown right here. Stipple that brown back in. Go back up to the ochre mix. Kind of just stipple into that. There. More ochre right there. Stipple right there. Just kind of building the frame. Bright, dark, bright pinwheel, right? Stipple on with some brown. Let's just kind of soften that line. Go back to the ochre mix. Got a good base for it. So that's like imagine if we took an airbrush out real quick and base coated it. You know? Love minis. I didn't know. These are the first signs you're getting old. That's fair. Let's get some ochre out right here. And let's just carefully drop some in right here. Semi-opaque, a little wet. And we're going to overemphasize it right here. We're going to just take a little bit more moisture and our brown mix. We're just going to lightly disperse that with some stipple sewing machine stroke. See, now we're just detailing out how bright it gets. Let's pick up some more ochre again. Down here. Stipple in. Pick up some of that mid-game. Just stipple it off, disperse. Bright, dark, bright. Pick up some of that ochre again. fucking hair on my bristle. Right there. Didn't really have to do much there. Just had that correct. Let's get some of the mid-tone right here. Stipple off some ochre. Soften it up a little bit. Just a little bit more ochre right here. There's no white in it yet. It's just ochre. Back to the mid game. Trying to really control the abruptness. It's tight. Okay. Let's get a little white. Steal a little white from this puddle into our ochre mix right here in the middle. So we're just going to put like a little box of white ochre there. Skinny rectangle here. Semi-opaque still, it's not opaque. Lay it down again. A little wider this time. So it's getting more opaque toward the center. Therefore, it looks brighter as it becomes less informed by the color that's already there. Martin B, what's up, brother? Now, getting the edge highlight and the pin wash is also going to be tricky. Let's get a little bit more white. A little bit more opaque. Right there. A little wider. Okay, now let's see if we can get the framework. Well, I'll do the pin wash first. So let's get a little coal black right here. A little mahogany, or yeah, mahogany. And what I need to do is create a nice border between the skull and the plate. So I'm gonna lean heavy against the skull as I drag this line in. So I'm willing to get it all over the skull. But we need a nice hard edge between the two surfaces. Because there really isn't one. So we have to lift, and I made a little mistake there, it's okay. We have to lift the skull off the plate with this artificial line that we just put in, using a more extreme by injecting black into it. Okay, Now you can take that same mix, lower the opacity, take some of the moisture off, and if you want, you can stipple a little bit more of the extreme right here in the center of the dark point, just to give us a little bit more drama. Now we can do the edge highlights. Let's grab the ochre, the white. So we're going to try to keep this high opacity. And I don't know if I can get that shelf. I'll try it. There's the nut. So I'm using a modified tracer and like heart pull position. I'm using the tip of my brush to skirt the bevel. Whew. That's tricky to hold the model. There we go. So you got the foundation. See if I can do it here. Let's get that. Some clean lines. Just really taking my time. At some point though, I'm gonna have to take some bigger risks with the white and the tip of my brush, going for a traditional heart pull right here. So I'm gonna get a little flow improver using the tip of my brush. On this little spot right here. And if I get this on the black armor, that's not such a big deal because I can go back and just pen wash the line around the black or around the gold trim here and easily repair the armor. So I'll lean, if I'm gonna lean into one direction or the other, I'll lean into the armor direction and fuck that up. So I'm just manually dragging some excess of brightness right there. Let's get a little more white. Right there. And we'll work out any of the tide lines in a second. But we're getting there. Jack's the Pirate. Yeah, I don't think Secret Weapon Miniatures is doing bases anymore either. They went out of business last year, but I think they're still doing some stuff. Or Justin is. I just have to get rid of that old link. Talon, my dude. Can I get some strong man love for my boy Talon, please? Talon. You're right, 39 is way too old to start roller skating again. You need to do what all the other old California ladies do. Competitive mall speed walking intermixed with high intensity line dancing. Just to get in shape for it. You're right. Talon, that's a good point, man. Thank you. Now, Talon, I'm going to take some stock ochre. I'm going to ochre up this nut a little bit because I got a little on the white side. Now, here's the real tricky shit, Talon. This is going to be the obnoxious shit. Okay, let's get some white. Into our ochre, and look, we got to do our fake line. We got to create this artificial seam right up against the shadow we drew. Or in order to really max out the shininess, because there is no lip there, okay? There's literally just a smooth transition into skull. And that is not going to do it for me, guys. Contrast for me is about creating borders and separation. And what we did was we separated the skull from the plate by putting a pin wash line between it. And then now what we've done is pretended that there's a lip like on both sides of that strip, but there is not. It just blends right into the skull. There's no stop and start. So now it has the illusion that it does. So artificial contrast, right? Or fake it highlighting. Or just manufacturing a sharper image. Using the tip of our brush, light brush pressure, pull back to your heart. Right there. And now we can paint the fucking skull. Talon, the legend. In chat, no old lady roller derby war pigment. What's wrong with that shit? That's just like heat. I'm part of 3 roller derby charity organizations, which is not true. Okay, so let's get our black and white together, and let's just kind of wet glaze real quick. Right here. Okay, so we're going to isolate this section of the skull right here. We're going to go back to the black for a quick spell. Okay, we're going to rinse. We're going to go back to the white. We're going to stipple that down. A little more white. Man, I used to love roller derby. When I first discovered it, I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. So it just like basically just took the same base color we had, just black and white, just wet glazed it and to give ourselves a little drama. Right over that same gray. We're gonna let it dry before we fuck with it further. Talon, you dated a roller derby girl for a few months way back when, and she was aggressive. That sport is aggressive. Slamming and jamming since the 80s nonstop. So, that sounds awesome. Let's grab a little white. I used to really love going to the roller rink. It was one of my favorite activities growing up. So we're taking a little bit more aggressive stance on the white right here. Creating a nice kind of, broader, fatter highlight. It's a little on the transparent side though, a little on the wet side. Harder to control, but just use light brush pressure. So just kind of give some defined edges to the skull right now. Is the goal, using the smaller detail brush. As we move closer and closer to white, because it's fucking skull. Stippling right here. Let's get these teeth. I'm trying to leave some shadow behind in the recesses. Very big smooth surface there, so I don't want to like rely on any kind of washing or anything. I'm gonna stipple off of this edge now, and I'm gonna let it get texture. But it's not super opaque, so those textures are gonna kind of soften as we move down. But I'm letting it be cloudy. So I'm just doing like pointillism right now and just reinforcing it over and over again. Toward the top here, you see it's getting brighter and brighter. You'll see right here. Now we're gonna do a little cleanup here. It got a little wacky in the cut right here, so I'm gonna get back to a gray. kind of strengthen that shadow right there. A dark gray. We'll put some white back in it. Kind of carve into that. And we'll stipple off of this as well. We'll go a little whiter than that. And see, I'm just going to kind of go back and forth. So a little bit of a lighter gray now. Oh, did I put green in there by accident? I did. So just a little bit of light gray. You see, we're just working that texture of that stippling effect. Let's go back, steal some white. And what do we have, about 7.5 minutes left? A little bit more thin down, closer to white. There we go. I'll take it. Put a little line right here. Fuck yeah. That's pretty fucking sick. So we worked out that shoulder and this shoulder. Got our silver accent. We've got our fucking big skull. Got our sword details, our hand details. So now we get to kind of just jump in and figure out how to do all this trim. It's going to be a nightmare because it's literally endless tiny nuts. It's like some of these guys, it's like just because they're digitally sculpting and they can like do anything at any detail level, it's like they take these like nuts and just keep making them smaller and smaller and putting them on other panels. And it's like while this is a very paintable model, it's very awesome. Those tiny nuts on those strips, kind of annoying. Repray, did you redo the outer face of the Polgen rings? Yeah. Talking about the fins up top? Yeah, I redirected them. I decided I didn't like the vertical striations and I went with more of a sunset curve. And we did sword as well. Power fist. So now we get to figure out what part of this is going to be metal and what part isn't. You know, it's a big ass sword. So we're probably going to do, I mean, I feel like the wings are just going to be like cool white, maybe. I don't know. Did they give me motes, war pigment? There's some in some areas, but it's chunky enough that you don't need to worry about the motes because it's not covered in cones. Crabfishes, thank you for the follow. But like on these wings, I feel like honestly what I'll end up doing is probably just some white and some blue. And I'll probably just go through just meticulously repaint them. And do my best as I go through. Kind of rapid fire. And try to leave some shadow in there. See, if I don't have to hit it with a wash later, I won't. Or any kind of pin washing or anything like that. If I could just kind of rapid fire hit the wings like so. And that's just like some gray and blue, basically. It's semi-opaque, just a little wet. Right over that base color we laid out.
We stand and watch the world go up in flames. We fight for love until
So if I take it to pretty much white, but on a cool spectrum, and I keep the sword kind of like in this darker gray spectrum, but neutral, I feel like we'll have enough contrast to satisfy me. And see, it doesn't take as long as you think, you know, to just kind of stick and move and leave some shadow behind. Just kind of like one pass, already looks sick. With a minute 40 left, rhythm. What's up, man? And then from there, you just kind of keep adding white and changing the direction and, you know, coolness factor of these wings.
we say our goodbyes to the ties that might have been. When the sky is getting dark,
See, these big ones, real easy to kind of get a subtle top highlight. With 40 seconds left on the clock. We're just gonna keep working that until we're happy. Oh, we're in overtime.
You gotta get swifty in here. It's time to get swifty. Uh-oh. You gotta get swifty. Oh, yeah. Take off your pants and your panties. Shit on the floor.
Let me get some strongman love for Cletus. Throwing a little bit of time on the clock for us. Thank you, Cletus. Cletus, check it out. A little bit more white. right here. And we're just trying to get a little tighter. To these feathers. Right there in the core. The feather core. Minute 19 on overtime because of Cletus. Move in here. And see, now what we can start doing is really shaping the wings so that each feather has a nice directional highlight. All we're doing is using the same mix, just a little bit more white, a little bit more white, a little bit more coverage, a little bit more coverage. Using the hard pull right there. And we'll just kind of reinforce it until we're happy, because the feathers on this shield are definitely really fucking important to this model's success. Right? It's a big part of the prime viewing angle of his Dark Angel pre-Heresy miniatures that those wings don't suck. Right? So nice crisp white with some blue accent. Figure out how we're going to do this sword. I might actually have some ideas for the sword. 10 seconds of overtime. Rhythm, nice job. Where's this mini from? Exclamation point, spiky resin. This is a Hersey Labs promotion. I've got about 30 of these to put out in gift bags and prizes this month. There it is. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to do one last thing here. Talon says kind of serendipitous, but while I've been listening to the Horus Heresy series today, while you were mowing, I started on Angels of Caliban. Kept thinking about this model during the part of the book focused on Red Wing. Kind of like when all else fails, guys, the voted lieutenant was Ken the Dreadbringer and commonly War Terminator. So that guy was a hardcore motherfucker. Talon, check it out. So as I look at how big this part of the model is, I'm going to take some orange, some ochre, and I realize that what we should do is not just paint this sword as one thing. We should absolutely, I'm just putting a thin pass right here. I should paint this part gold. See a little base coat right there, you can see. We'll paint this thing gold. You see? So it's not just one thing. We'll take some black. Some thin down black. We'll probably paint. No, that's a mistake. The sword, you see, will be neutral. A neutral steel. I'm just framing it real quick. So we'll take it off of the spectrum that the wings exist in. And the actual grip of the sword probably kind of similar. Maybe black and brown. Kind of desaturated. Kind of paint it like it's a real sword because it's so big and has so much detail on it. And probably actually paint the stupid sword gem as well. I'll just base coat it so you can see. So the way we'll really preserve contrast on that is by doing more on the sword than like that sword. The smaller sword, this one will be front center gangster. And we'll use the same techniques we've been using.